People, DG. Now, Unai Emery in terms of creativity and Unai Emery is getting a lot of heat, or a lot of people have had their opinions to say about it. Personally, I know it's drawing up a lot of conclusions. A lot of people are sitting there and saying, oh, let's wait for Unai Emery, give him some time, let him bring in his own players. There's some people who have just concluded he's not the man for this thing, and he's binned Ozil, he's binned Ramsey, he doesn't know what he wants to do with Aubameyang and Lacazette. They're not seeing anything he stands for. Personally, my 2 cents on Unai Emery currently is I'm not going to call for the manager to come out of the club. I stand by him. I mean, he's been in the job 8 months, and I have seen a lot to be encouraged by. I've seen a lot that concerns me, and it's probably to do with his own philosophy. We know a lot of these players, the individual mistakes, it's a bit of both, man. They're done at it. Some of these players are just, I don't even call them mistakes anymore. I call it choices, because they're choosing to do these things. They need to get rid of them. But by the same logic, if Unai Emery was brought here to be to work within his means and stuff like that, and I know he needs a lot of time, and I'm not saying to turn any players into world beaters, but you look at, for instance, I know he's not a first team player of sorts, but you look at Delph, people would have said when he's coming into Manchester City, or when Pep comes into Man City, players like him, maybe Otamendi to a degree, are going to get binned. Pochettino, obviously, it's easy to say this because it's been the last 18 months with Sissoko of sorts, but you're seeing Sissoko, probably Dyer, Lemina for sure, Harry Kane, I've always believed in Kane, but Kane as well, you've seen it. So, can't really say he needs his own players to a degree. He's known the job he's walking into, so he's going to have to work with them. I know he ain't going to be able to improve Mustafi, but he's got to work with a couple of them in it, so we can't always say new players. I like what I've seen by him. But everything I like about him so far, it could be looked at in 2 coins. I like the fact that he doesn't care if regardless of your status in this club or whatever, if he feels you're the man for the job or the game, he's going to play you, or he'll drop you likewise. But by the same token, if you're always, for as much as I praise him, if you're constantly chopping and changing and having to make subs at almost identical times, are you really a genius, or are you necessarily making the right choices? Per se, I'm not sure. In terms of his philosophy, I don't think he stands for one. Now, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of fans in today's market, they scream philosophy. As long as it's with exactly their ideologies, people see philosophy and assume that you've got to do tiki-taka and stuff. It might not be. It could be hella defensively. Unai Emery, to me, his philosophy is, I wouldn't say prides defending over everything else, but he prides stability or somewhat defensive things, and then you go from there. It's not a fluid sort of movement like Wenger sort of one. But so I think he needs to define himself or what he wants to do at Arsenal. It's not a club where, or it's not been the club for the last 20 or so years, because I've only known Wenger, where you can it's just a freestyling thing. You need a clear way of playing, and I don't feel in an attacking sense he does that. Beyond us relying on random acts of combination plays with our great technical players and our good players like Aubameyang, Lacazette, Torreira in incidences, and Ramsey, I don't see continuous attacking sort of variety in our play to suggest that we're an offensive team. Great on the counter-attack, great statistically, we scored some great goals and a high amount of goals, so we're up there, but I don't feel he's that. Midfield, I'm not really too sure of these midfield roles. We know, for instance, Xhaka, his strengths are to try and help the ball play and play progressive passes. I'm not, if by the same token, what is he doing in our midfield? What is actually Lucas Torreira's role in our midfield? Now, that's a very one I'm not sure. A lot of you have just seen what I've said and are going to get excited and go into my comments. Don't confuse what I'm asking you with what the player's profile is. Torreira's profile was clearly he can play football, he can play connective passes. Clearly his strengths are clearly winning the ball back and tackling. Don't confuse that with what I'm asking. What is Lucas Torreira's role within this Arsenal midfield? Please don't confuse that. Don't confuse the fact that he's the one mopping stuff up with that's his role. Because I don't feel there's a lot of players we don't either not playing to their strengths or not playing their roles. Aubameyang relies on pace and things like that. We're not playing early crosses, early balls in really and truly for him to really thrive off that. So there's several incidences where we can improve in that regards. I do think he's way too defensive in the Prem, and he's going to have to unlearn some of them as well, because it does look like he gets scared at times, like you've seen with the changes he made very quickly against Manchester United in terms of the tactical play, how he set up against Manchester City away as well at their place, where they're going to have the fans going against them, going for them. So yeah, man, I believe in him, but I don't really see it, man. And when I look in, if I bring up some statistics, people, there's a reason my phone was in my hand. I didn't just have it in my hand for no reason. But and some of my screenshots. This is what I said, people. one of my screenshots on Twitter. If we cannot defend, our defending isn't going to improve at least until the summer, obviously, for obvious reasons. We've had more joy attacking sides in big games, even when we went to United. So why do we insist on over-sitting in our box if we aren't good enough to remain rigid, etc.? You see what I'm saying, people? So at least for this season, again, I'm not saying absolve them all of defensive responsibilities. I want them to improve, but if we're not going to be the team he wants us to be, in that we're good offensively and we can sit in and do what we need to do, at least for the season, at least for this season. So surely it would make more sense being an attacking option. And if we look at what else did I have? Yeah, man. Like I said, in regards to the game against City, I said it's. Someone asked me. I said it's. I said I get the game plan, but it was down to individuals letting us down. But at the same time, you can't expect to sit for 90 minutes in the Premier League, especially against City, and not eventually get picked off. And he's bound to have known that. To be honest with you, obviously there's a lot of spaces being left between our defenders as well. For me as well, people, at the start of the season, people were saying we're defending better, we're running better, clean sheet, scoring better, all of these things. If you can conclude all of these things as quickly as you did, then why can't people ask questions legitly of Unai Emery? People say, well, it's like some fans, you ask some questions of Unai Emery and they think you're asking him for him to go out the club. My only question is, firstly, what are we trying to do? Because I see bits and both. If you was to ask me my opinion, I think we've just become a cup side, essentially targeting Europa League, and a counter-attacking side. We only look good on the counter-attack occasionally, in my opinion, and we're relying on set pieces and just individual moments of brilliance in terms of combination play. We're not really fashioning a lot of chances. We're not creating a lot of chances. If we are trying to have greater defensive stability, then we're not, at least for me, we're not training on the same mistakes we're making. We're still poor shuffling across to the left or the right-hand side as a unit. We're still unable to track runners. We're unable to fill in gaps. We're still not proactive in that approach. So if you can praise Unai Emery for what he had early in the season, why can't you ask questions of these certain things? And I haven't, regardless of if it's one season or 8 months or whatever, you want to see certain things. And if you're honest, what has Unai Emery implemented into that side? Start of the season, you heard that he's getting them playing better, even by the players themselves. What is he implementing? Because we don't look better offensively. We don't look better in midfield in terms of roles. I'm not asking for us to be the finished article. I'm asking for some encouragement, some encouraging signs, and I haven't seen them. Yes, we've got more points in several incidences than we did last year, and it's not all doom and gloom. I'm not suggesting that, but in terms of what he's trying to implement, I'm not too sure. I see certain game plans, if he had his personnel, if you can say that, how he would play, but yeah, just that's it. That's just my opinion. But on the topic of offensive chances, people, again, it's easy for me to look at these statistics, and the context of the games were a bit different. There was a penalty in the Newcastle game. Palace scored a banger, but if you look at, I have to go on my Twitter, sorry people. If you look at just the statistics of the games now, yeah, I really should have had this all before prepared and that, but if we look at the statistics, look, yeah, here we go. I don't think, can you not see? Flash ain't going to be kind to you lot. But yeah, we've got the game against Newcastle. Obviously, City scored in the first minute and it was 2 goals in the last 20 essentially from Newcastle. But if we just look at the shots, Newcastle had 7 shots, 2 on target, yeah? Cool. In our game, we had 4 shots, 2 on target, none in the second half. So it doesn't matter how much you want to remain rigid defensively, you need to have a goal. That's Arsenal now. You look at Palace. All right, cool. Palace had 5 shots, 3 on target. Sorry. Leicester City, 10 shots, 5 on target, and they won. So in all them 3 games where Palace, Newcastle, and Leicester had more efforts than us at Manchester City's goal, they won. Of course, the context is with difference. Of course, Manchester City are going to raise their game for when they play a top 6 club. Of course, the context, they needed to win after losing to Newcastle. But this is pretty damning statistics. Now, Claude Puel's not the most offensive of managers either. Neither is Roy Hodgson. And they managed to get a result. Forget the result. Just look at the shots on target. Again, how do you quantify shots? But if you don't shoot, you don't score. And I do feel that's one thing of Unai Emery. I do think he's not really on the creativity sort of thing. I don't feel we're taking enough shots. And I feel he's got to look at it to marry the two together, because I feel he's got to look at his own philosophies. He needs to keep I'd say he needs to keep 90% of it and just be a bit more attacking in games. I'm not, again, not calling for a gun-ho approach, but it's a fact. You cannot sit for 90 minutes, especially a game against City. Now, City have battered teams that have had had a goal against them and things like that. But you see the point I'm getting at. That's pretty damning statistics, and I must admit, Unai Emery does come across at times as a bit anti-football. Again, I don't care for the person. I'm not going to get into all the dramas with Ozil and all of these people. But in terms of what he's trying to implement, I don't see it yet, people. I really don't see it. I stand by him, but I don't see it yet. And there's no shame in that. I believe in the manager. I stand by him, but I don't see everything. I see promising signs, but I don't see everything. And it does feel like a certain amount of our fan bases, some people just want to blast the guy and say he's no good. Some people just want to back everything he says so they can look back like idiots and say in hindsight, I told you so. I just talk on what I see from game to game. I've seen him save us with his tactics. I've seen him implement great things with his tactics. I've also seen his tactics let us down, in my opinion, to be fair. I don't feel against Manchester City. I feel we could have had a bit more of a goal, but I wouldn't blame his tactics. I'd blame individual errors. But I'm sure you get the point of what I'm trying to make by now. But on that note, I'm going to get out of your hair. So people, deluded, stay safe, stay deluded and all them things. I'm out. Comment, subscribe and do the rest if you wish. Bang.